Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the Township of Wainfleet regular council meeting of July 12th, 2022 to order, and will please stand for our national anthem. Okay, thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest, general nature thereof, any conflicts? Nothing, seeing none. Okay, moving on to the mayor's remarks. Please note that the meeting proceedings are being broadcast live, recorded, and made available through the township website and youtube.com. Wainfleet was proud to have participated in the 2022 Canada Summer Games Torch Relay this past Saturday, and is encouraging the public to come out to our 13 for 13 cultural event coinciding with the Summer Games on August the 16th, 2022 at the Wainfleet Arena from 5 to 10 p.m. It's going to be an excellent celebration of arts and heritage featuring celebrated Nunavut artist Susan Aglukark and homegrown artists, Great Lakes swimmers. Come enjoy the local farmers market, which is on as well at that time. Delicious offerings from our culinary partners, food trucks, and special activities for the whole family to enjoy. So that is August the 16th for that 13 for 13 party celebrating the Canada Games. Township recently received information that Rogers Communications is coming to Wainfleet to offer high-speed fiber services to the broader Wainfleet community, including most currently underserviced areas of the township. This is a huge initiative that will be commenced by Rogers later this year and is expected to help address a problem that was brought to Council's attention earlier this term. Rogers will be making a presentation at an upcoming council meeting to provide further details on the initiative. And this is something that our council has been working on since day one, the lack of reliable internet in the township, and it's nice to see that we're actually getting somewhere and going to have this start. On Tuesday, July 26th at 6 p.m., the township and engineering firm will hold a preliminary information meeting to discuss the improvement project for the Ellsworth Municipal Drain. And on Thursday, July 28th at 6 p.m., the township and engineering firm will hold an on-site meeting to kick off the improvement project for the Casey Drain and Casey Drain North municipal drains. Both of these meetings are being held at the Wainfleet Firefighters Memorial Community Hall, and notifications were distributed to impacted owners this week. And the next regular meeting of council will be held August 9th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Are there any councillor remarks? Councillor Cridlin.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Just some meeting announcements. The NPCA next board meeting will be this Friday, July 15th at 9:30. And then on Tuesday, July 19th and Tuesday, August 2nd, both at 3 p.m. will be the Transit Commission meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from councillors? Seeing none. Okay, so on to number 7, adoption of previous council minutes. Are there any comments or corrections to those minutes in your review? Okay, seeing none. Motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of council on June 21st, 2022 be adopted as circulated. Mover, seconder for that, please. Councillor McClellan, Councillor Van Vliet. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, and that is carried. Thank you. We don't have a public meeting. We're moving on now to our delegations. And we have one delegation this evening on the agenda, and it's the Niagara Regional Police Service 2022 update. We have Chief Brian McCulloch and members of the Niagara Regional Police Service joining us through Zoom. And I would like to hand the floor over to Chief McCulloch, and which will be followed by a presentation by Staff Sergeant Phil Lishka. And Chief, you may proceed. Welcome.
Thanks very much, Mayor Gibson, councillors. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity this evening to be able to share some insights into the Niagara Regional Police Service. I'll keep my opening comments brief before turning the presentation over to our new district commander for 6 districts, Staff Sergeant.
Okay, Chief, just if you could hold for a second, we seem to have lost audio here. Okay, try again, Chief. Nope, we're not getting anything. Hang on, please. Can we just go back without the screen share, and maybe that ate up too much of our data. We don't have Rogers here yet, so. Yeah, maybe we do. So, Chief, can you try again, please?
Okay, thanks so much, Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity to join you this evening. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you, and it looks like perhaps our data just wasn't able to handle the 2 items at once there. So I apologize. That's obviously going to impact your presentation, but we could try again going screen share for one more try, and if that doesn't work, then we'll just have to go without. I apologize for that. Try again.
Okay, no worries. I'll keep my my opening comments brief before turning the presentation over to our district commander for 6 districts, Staff Sergeant Phil Lishka. When myself and the 2 deputies, Deputy Chief Brett Flynn and Deputy Chief Bill Forty, when we look at serving our community, we really have 3 overarching guiding principles. First of all, assisting victims of crime, member wellness, and community engagement. As we see the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions, we're very much looking forward to being able to resume with community events and really connecting with the members of the community that our members are so proud to.
Okay, Chief, we've lost you again. I apologize. So we'll have to go without the screen share. It seems to be more reliable. My apologies.
Or alternatively, perhaps we could get the other members of the delegation to turn off their videos, and we just have one video running and one screen share running.
Okay, let's try that with the screen share now, Chief.
Yeah. As we see the continued lifting of COVID-19 restrictions, we're very much looking forward to being able to resume with community events and connecting with members of our community that our members are so proud to serve and protect. Is that coming through, Mayor?
All good, yes.
Okay, perfect.
This is certainly an exciting time for me as well to be given this opportunity by the executive leadership team to take command of the 6th District. I'd first like to start by reading our mission statement, if at all possible. The Niagara Regional Police Service is dedicated to serving and protecting residents and visitors within the regional municipality of Niagara. In partnership with the community, we shall provide quality policing services with integrity, diligence, and sensitivity. Next slide, please. This slide is the current organizational structure for our command staff. And as you are likely aware, senior command structure consists of the Chief of Police, supported by 2 deputies, Deputy Chief of Police Operational Services, Brett Flynn, and Deputy Chief of Police Support Services, Mr. Bill Forty. Next chart. This is the organizational chart. A quick overview of our current organizational structure makes, quick overview of our current organizational structure, much like many large organizations, show the scope and breadth of the service and area of expertise of the Niagara Regional Police Service. From a uniform perspective, we have 774 sworn members as part of our authorized strength. From the Chief of Police and 2 deputies to 5 superintendents, 14 inspectors, 31 staff sergeants, and 109 sergeants, in conjunction with 599 uniformed constables. On the civilian side, we have 326 members with 1 director, 2 managers, and 313 civilian support staff personnel. Next slide, please. Breaking down the organization chart further, I wanted to give a snapshot of the various police programs that we have here in Niagara, from executive services, district, frontline operations, as well as the operational support services. Operational support services are resources above and beyond the number of specifically assigned patrol officers to be able to assist with more complex needs, such as investigations, such as the Special Victims Unit, the Domestic Violence Unit, Child Abuse Unit, Sexual Assault, and Homicide Unit. Next slide, please. Further to the police programs, we also have a corporate services, technology services, and operational supports in roles such as 911 communications, real-time operations centers, and court services as well. Just to break this down a little bit farther, all these additional programs are available to policing in Port Colborne and Wainfleet communities. These would be such things as like our K9 unit, as well as the Real-Time Operational Center, which allows us to do real-time imaging for missing persons, as well as other things. Some statistical trends. Thank you. Looking year over year, we've seen fluctuations in calls for service. 2021 from 2020, we saw almost a 3.8% increase, which can be partially attributed to an initial dip in calls of service due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but also an overall increase in call volume. Of note, beginning May 1st, 2021, the Niagara Regional Police Service, through the Communications Unit, began using a new set of priority dispatch codes, which include a priority 6 call. This category includes various calls that do not require an officer to be dispatched, however, better quantifies the work being done within the unit and service-wide, along with allowing us to better track interactions with the callers. In 2021, there were 18,036 priority 6 calls region-wide. In 2021, calls for service, less those priority 6 calls, equaled 130,306 incidents, resulting in a 3.27% increase in calls for service over the 2020 year, and a 1.13% decrease from 2019, which was pre-COVID. Next slide, please. If we look particularly at the calls for service pattern in 6th District, Wainfleet specifically, we see that it closely mirrors the pattern we've seen in the region overall, with a dip in calls for service, followed by a rebound effect where the 2021 calls are back up near the 2018 peak. You'll see here, can we just go back for a sec? Okay, you'll see here on the chart in front of you that the priority 6 calls include various instances not equal dispatch or offer better means to track the calls onto the communication unit. And property related, I'd like to maybe just tie in closer to this in the next couple slides. Property related calls for service, including break-in enters, theft of vehicles, and theft from vehicles, have decreased in Wainfleet 18% in 2021 over the 2020 year. Mental health calls have decreased 35% compared to 2020. Okay, maybe next slide, please. Calls for service in 2021 totaled 1,004 calls for service, which is 3.8% higher when compared to the 2022 or 2020. Property-related calls, break-in enters, theft from vehicles, and theft of vehicles have decreased 18% over 2021 over 2020, and mental health calls have decreased 35% compared to 2020. I've already gone over that, but we'll continue on here. Which slide are we on?
I believe we're on slide 9, sir.
Slide 9. Thank you so much. I just lost track there for a second. Further breakdown calls for service regarding property crimes. 2021 showed a slight decrease in all categories, including break-in enters, thefts of and from vehicles. There have not been any robberies during this period encompassing the 2019 through the 2021 period. Next slide, please. This slide is an overview of mental health calls for service in Wainfleet. Mental health calls have decreased 35% compared to 2020. And of note, we have not seen the stark increase in mental health calls and persons in crisis calls for the service as compared throughout the region, which has seen an 82% increase compared to the 2019 stats. Next slide. This is with respect to community-oriented policing within 6th District and specifically Wainfleet. Officers within 6th District are actively engaged in proactive community engagement and safety initiatives such as cottage checks, foot patrols, ATV patrols, and enforcement, as well as enforcing school zone safety. And officers within 6th District have the ability to tap into the core community-oriented response and engagement unit, which is a new unit, as well for additional resources and assistance in addressing identified community concerns. Another example where we've seen success in collaboration in regards to diversion to the appropriate community resources is the implementation of the Port All situation table in Port Colborne, which also serves the residents in Wainfleet as well. In February 2018, the Niagara Regional Police Service, along with several agencies representing a variety of human service sectors, launched the Port All, the first situation table in the Niagara region. Port All, similar to other situation table models, is designed to ensure individuals living in Port Colborne as well as Wainfleet who are at risk of victimization and harm are connected to service providers before an incident occurs. During Port All meetings, representatives from participating agencies identify individuals who may be experiencing an acute elevated risk from harm for discussion among the group. Once a determination has been made that this risk of harm is present, the agencies of Port All in the best position to offer assistance, coordinate a response, and reduce risk for the individual. These successes demonstrate the power of collaboration and leverage a multidisciplinary approach to ensuring persons at acutely elevated risk of harm are connected with the appropriate supports in the community where a traditional or exclusive policing response may not be the most appropriate approach. All of our community engagement and crime prevention initiatives are routinely shared by way of our Twitter account, which is at 6NRPS, which engages the local residents and community stakeholders to share crime prevention messages as well as address community concerns. In addition to cottage checks, crime initiatives, including officers' foot patrols and campaigns such as Lock It or Lose It. Next slide. One new initiative that I've noted for 2022 is high visibility traffic enforcement. So in addition to general patrol duties, this special project is being utilized to bring a community-based policing approach to the residents of rural Wainfleet. The goal of this project is to maintain a transparent relationship with the rural residents while addressing traffic concerns of specific residents, targeting their areas of concern through enforcement. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you, staff. We'll look to questions from our councillors to the staff or the chief or any of them. Okay, I have one. One of the things that, and I hear it fairly frequently, is that the public calls and they don't deem that they're getting adequate service in that someone is showing up in a timely fashion to their noise complaint or their house party complaint, that sort of thing. Can you explain, please, the levels of prioritization in responding to calls for the NRPS for the public's information?
Is that directed to me?
Sure. Yes, definitely, staff.
Well, I'm relatively new to the area, but we certainly prioritize calls by the urgency or the urgent nature of their calls. Our communications unit receives the calls through our complaint takers and assigns it a ranking structure, I guess would be the best, well, it's a priority structure, and we assign our officers to respond to these calls by way of priority. Not sure if that answers questions, or if the chief or the acting super would like to chime in addition to that.
Yeah, because one of the things that I often hear is the noise party on one of our lakeshore roads, for example, on a Friday night is rocking and rolling at 3 o'clock in the morning. They call the police and they don't seem satisfied in the fact that they get a police car out there in a timely fashion, if at all. So, I mean, I know that there are prioritizations in regards to crimes against people, crimes against property, etc. But I'd just like to see that explained a bit for the public, so the public could understand how, the limited resources are spread out on a busy Friday night. So, go ahead, please, Chief.
Yeah, I'll add that, Mr. Mayor. So our priority calls are really ranked from 1 to 6, with 1 being the highest priority for our officers, down to priority level 6, which in most cases doesn't require a police response. So very quickly, again, and particularly in the smaller districts, like 6th District would be considered one of our smaller districts, where we don't have nearly as many officers working as we would in St. Catharines. So when you have a priority 1 call, which typically results in 2 officers responding to that type of a call, a minimum of 2 officers responding to that type of a call, you can quickly eat up the resources. And if you have 2 or 3 priority 1 calls all coming in at the same time, it can, again, quickly have all of our officers deployed to high priority calls where a noise complaint would be more than likely a priority 3 or a priority 4 type of a situation. So again, until our officers were free and able to respond to that type of call, it could be a delayed response.
Okay, thank you. And I'll carry on a little bit if no one else has a question. For the public again, on the average Friday, Saturday night out of District 6, how many officers would be working to cover Port Colborne and Wainfleet? Just generally speaking, just ballpark.
Did you want to cover that off, Deputy?
Sorry, Chief. I actually brought up the detailed calls for service with respect to the priorities, but I'll have to lean on Mario a little bit for our actual numbers as they're distributed throughout 3 and 6. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. With regards to the Western region, there could be on a Friday, Saturday night, our authorized strength for platoons could rise from 6 plus 12, 18 plus another 8, so 24 maximum officers. But that you also got to keep in mind that we are region based, so we have.
Sorry, we've lost the audio there, sir. Still gone. So working out of Port Colborne, Chief, responding to Wainfleet calls, I know the public has said, well, there's lots of police officers working. I'm just trying to shed some light to the public on actually how many officers could be working on a Friday, Saturday night in the summertime for when that noise complaint comes in at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're prioritizing files. How many officers would be working? Just a general number.
Yeah, ballpark number, we would have around 5 officers that would be working on a Friday night or a Saturday night. And again, depending on the competing priorities of calls, they could be quickly eaten up. And again, as we recognize as well, mental health apprehensions can cause our officers to have to attend at the St. Catherine's Hospital for that apprehension. So again, it pulls them away from their assigned duties. But as Superintendent Lagratario was mentioning, we do have the ability to redeploy officers from other districts depending on other calls for service that may be going on at the same time. But I'm hoping that answers your question in a ballpark manner.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. I'm just trying to show the public, because I hear quite often about the fact that, you know, we phone but nobody comes, or it's so late it doesn't matter. When they come, the issue is finished. And I'm just trying to shed light to the Wainfleet residents on how the system works with prioritization. And 5 officers for Port Colborne and Wainfleet on a busy Friday, Saturday night. It takes no time for those officers to have their night booked with other calls in priority. And so often that noise complaint falls way down and is possibly not even responded to simply because of the other higher priority files. So it is something I hear quite often from our residents, and it's just I tell them about the system, but it's only, you know, one person I'm telling at a time. So this is a good opportunity to put it out there more to the public about, you know, the resources are taxed, there are priorities. Obviously, somebody with a gun takes priority with, you know, and that requires a number of officers to respond, takes priority over a house party or squealing tires or that sort of thing. So it's just an effort on my part here to try to help the public understand how the system works. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Van Vliet.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to say thank you for the presentation. And I think what the mayor is trying to get at is we get complaints about short-term rentals, quite a few, usually in the same area, And I'm just wondering, is there some kind of process that if a complaint comes in, a noise complaint, like sometimes these people get aggressive that are renting out the units towards our residents. Is there some way that an officer could follow up, say, on the Tuesday afternoon with the owner of that STR and just say, hey, we keep getting complaints about this one individual address. Can you like screen your renters better? Is there something that maybe the police could do a little bit more for the resident who's continually calling about that same address with the same complaints until it escalates to something that we are reading now that are happening at short-term rentals? Case in point, the one that happened in Pelham not too long ago.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that's something that actually our 6th District Commander would certainly be able to follow up with the cottage owner and have officers attend. We certainly don't want to see things escalate and don't want any of the neighboring residents to be put in harm's way. So that's absolutely something that we could follow up on.
Thank you.
And just to that point, staff, I would like to meet with you very soon. We do have a couple of ongoing problem areas that require more than just the show up for the noise complaint. It really does require follow-up action on part of the police or offenses being committed. And so I would like to meet with you next week. I'll ask my admin assistant to reach out to you, and we'll set a time, and perhaps you can come over and we can sit down and go over some of our problem areas just for the whole area of Wainfleet and help you get familiarized with our issues. So it would be an important thing for us to do.
That would be perfect. I'll certainly set some time aside for you. I recently received your new noise bylaw, and I have forwarded that out to our sergeants, who have in turn brought it forward to the officers working on the road. And there was one specific address that was brought to my attention. I've also passed that information along to them. I think this new bylaw will certainly help in easing some of these concerns. And certainly you'll have my contact number, as you already do, I believe. If there's anything specific that you need to have addressed, please feel free to bring it to my attention, and I will certainly make it happen.
Yeah, and as per Councillor Van Vliet's comments, which were right on, this is the one incident's been going on for a year and a half, and I'm truly becoming worried that it could escalate. And so we do need that little extra push by the police to help us get this resolved, because the residents are becoming very, very frustrated. And it's something that we just need to get done. There's offenses being committed. Our bylaw people are working. We're issuing tickets. We're issuing court appearances now, but it continues. So we may just have to escalate it that extra little step here, which you folks can do. And we want to get this resolved for the residents. So I'll look forward to meeting with you next week, staff, and we can get started on that and just generally other issues in Wainfleet. So. Are there any other questions here? Councillor McClellan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just one thing to staff. Thanks for putting on this presentation. I appreciate it. One of the things I'm going to ask is, you talk about our new bylaw. Looks like it's doing okay. You guys see this every day. You've worked in different parts of the province, I'm sure. When you come to this meeting, if you have suggestions of what we can do or implement into these bylaws that'll make your life easier. The MTO gave us one. We acted on it really quick on something that they wanted done. If you have something that you think will help, please let us know, and we'll try and get that put into our bylaws so it gives you more authority or more right to do what needs to be done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none. Can I have a mover and a seconder to receive this report, please? Councillor Cridlin and Councillor Gilmore. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of receiving it? That is carried. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your presentation tonight. I think we've made some steps forward here on some of our issues, and definitely the stats there were interesting and to show the residents, you know, we aren't just a little sleepy place out in the country. We do have quite a number of calls for service here. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to present.
Thank you very much.
Sir.
Okay, moving on, building staff report. And Ms. Earle, would you speak to that, please?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This memo highlights the first and second quarter of our building stats reporting for the year 2022. Right now we're sitting at about 67 permits, although the actual numbers of permits are below the stats from last year. We do see a higher number in the value and application fees. That's coming from some larger projects that have been ongoing, the new fire hall and some large agricultural building conversions that we've seen. These reports are available for the public online, and this is through our Build and Invest site on our webpage if anybody is interested in keeping tabs on our quarterly reports. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Motion being the memorandum from the chief building official respecting 2022 building permit activity, quarters 1 and 2, be received as information. Mover seconder for that, Councillor Gilmore, Councillor Van Vliet. And can I have discussion, please? Okay, seeing none. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Moving on to item B, bylaw enforcement staff report, the appointment of our summer student, and I'll look to our planner to speak to that again, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This memo outlines, due to staffing changes, we have a new summer municipal bylaw enforcement officer in place, and this bylaw is to appoint her to allow to act as a municipal officer on behalf of the township.
Okay, thank you. And that is the summer student we've had, what, 2 years now? She's very comfortable, knows what she's doing, and is very good. So motion being that memorandum from bylaw enforcement respecting summer municipal bylaw enforcement officer be received as information. Mover seconder for that, please. Councillor McClellan and Councillor Cridlin. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Community and Development Services staff report, and I'll look to Ms. Earle again to speak to that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. This memo just highlights that since the passing of the Lakeshore Access bylaw back in May, it's been brought to staff's attention that there's been a number of other properties that are municipally owned that have access to the lakeshore. So what we've done is amend just Schedule A to outline not just the 5 that were initially highlighted, but to note that the bylaw applies to all municipally owned lands that have lakeshore access. So just Schedule A of the bylaw is being amended.
Okay, thank you. So potential motion, memorandum from the Manager of Community and Development Services respecting amendment to Lakeshore Access bylaw be received as information. Mover seconder for that, please. Councillor McClellan, Councillor Van Vliet. And is there discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And we'll move into our drainage staff report, and I'll look to our drainage superintendent, Mr. Jemison, to speak to that, please.
Great. Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to all of council. So this staff report is for the consideration of the Chambers Corner Drain Extension Improvement Project under Section 78 of the Drainage Act. So this was a new municipal drain created under petition last year to facilitate drainage at the Central Fire Station facility. The main impacted landowner since the creation of the municipal drain has requested an improvement on the drain, which is to make it a tile subsurface drain rather than an open ditch. So staff are recommending that the engineer's report be adopted under provisional bylaw and the process proceed through the Drainage Act. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions first before I read all the part of the motion here. None. Okay, so the motion being report 005-2022 regarding consideration of the Chambers Corner Drain Extension Improvement be received, and that a bylaw be given 2 readings to provisionally adopt the Chambers Corner Drain Extension Report dated June 20th, 2022, prepared by Sprite Associates Engineers and Architects under Section 4, Chapter D, 17 of the Drainage Act 1990, and that staff be directed to advance the Chambers Corner Drain Extension Report to that of the Court of Revision as per Section 46(1) of the Drainage Act of Ontario, and that Councillors Van Vliet, Cridlin, and McClellan be appointed as members to the Chambers Corner Drain Extension Court of Revision, and Councillor Gilmore be appointed as an alternate member to be tentatively scheduled for August 9th, 2022 at 6 p.m. prior to the regular council meeting. And that upon completion of the appeal process, the drainage superintendent be authorized to proceed with construction of the drainage works in accordance with the Drainage Act. Mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Van Vliet and Councillor McClellan. Any discussion? Seeing none. Oh, seeing, get your hand to go up, Councillor? No, okay. Councillor Gilmore.
I'm glad that I'm appointed as an alternate, but I'm not sure I should even be mentioned because I am a contracted employee to one of the 3 affected people, mainly the largest one. So assuming that there's no conflict with the other 3, I think that I should not be even the alternate.
I agree. I think
opinion.
that would make it very clean for us to be as, for optics, so we'll remove Councillor Gilmore from that motion. That's fine. I'm alternate, yeah. Okay, so we'll make that adjustment in there. Thank you, clerk. Mover, seconder, it's been done. All in favor as amended. That's adopted. Thank you. Fire staff report, and I'll look to the chief to give us his report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The purpose of this evening's report is to revise and amend Schedule B to our establishing and regulating bylaw. As you recall, in 2019, the council had approved the bylaw, which had an organizational chart listed as Schedule B to that. Since that time, we've undergone some changes, both corporate structure-wide as well as within the department, and then also with the planned amalgamation of the 2 stations being in Winger and Wainfleet. The intent here is to change the organizational chart not only to reflect the changes that have occurred, but also to plan for the changes that are coming. So some of those changes, just to highlight, is the retitlement from administrative assistant to executive assistant, moving from just a training division to professional development training, and also that's the removal of the training officer and replacing that with the cadre of instructors that report to the deputy chief. Taking a more broad approach instead of enforcement and community services, retitling that to community risk reduction, which includes both fire prevention and public education. And then lastly, the realignment of the stations with the intent that Station 1 would become the administrative portion of the new fire hall, and Station 2 would be entitled the operational side of the new central station. So ultimately, this will reflect in a change in how the overall, what the org chart looks like, and you'll see that there's a change in the number of officers, the number of lieutenants and firefighters at each of those buildings. So, if any questions.
Just for the public, when you always refer to Station 1, Station 2, Station 3, the public doesn't necessarily know which ones you're referring to. Can you advise?
For sure. My apologies. Yes, Station 1 in Winger and Station 2 is in Wainfleet, here in the village.
Okay, thank you. Potential motion. Council approve and adopt the organizational chart as presented and direct staff to prepare an amendment to the fire department establishing and regulating bylaw at the next available meeting. Mover, seconder for that, please. Councillor Gilmore and Councillor Van Vliet, and discussion. Okay, seeing none. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Planning staff report. And we'll look to Ms. Ivins to speak to this, please. And we can't hear you, Sarah. Nope.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we have you now.
Testing 1, 2.
Yes, we have you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to all of council. This first report here provides an overview of the applicable planning policies as it relates to the zoning bylaw amendment application submitted on behalf of Mayor Farms Limited for a property known municipally as 33553 Theater Road West. So the proposed amendment is needed to comply with provincial and regional township planning policies regarding the disposal of a surplus farm dwelling, where the retained agricultural lands are to be rezoned to agricultural purposes only, which prohibits the construction of a dwelling in perpetuity. So in addition to prohibiting dwellings on Part 2, the proposed amendment also seeks to add site-specific zones to recognize a reduced lot area for Part 2 and to recognize the existing heights of the existing accessory buildings on Part 1. So it's my opinion that the application meets the applicable planning policies, and I have recommended that the zoning bylaw amendment be approved, and the implementing bylaw has been added to this evening's agenda as bylaw 34.
Okay, thank you. Motion being planning staff report 002-2022 be received, and that zoning bylaw amendment file Z02-2022W for lands described as concession 2 part lot 34 and 35 known municipally as 33553 Feeder Road West be approved for the reasons outlined in the report, and that the application be deemed consistent with the provincial policy statement 2020 and other matters of provincial interest, and that the zoning bylaw amendment attached as Appendix C be adopted. You have a mover seconder for that, please. Councillor McClellan and Councillor Gilmore. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, and the second part of your presentation tonight, Sarah?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So PSR 003 is another zoning bylaw amendment file. So the report provides an overview of the applicable planning policies as it relates to the zoning amendment submitted on behalf of Tom Nicholsar for a vacant property on Morgan's Point Road, which also has frontage on Fowler Road. So the proposed amendment is needed to align with the Lakeshore residential designation in the township's official plan and to permit dwellings on the lots that have been provisionally approved by the Committee of Adjustment. So the application seeks to rezone the subject property from an agricultural.
Okay, wait, Sarah, we just lost your audio there for the last sentence. Can you try again, please?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the application seeks to rezone the subject property from an agricultural transition A1 zone to a residential Lakeshore RLS C10 zone and a C10-44 zone. And that exception 44 permits a minimum lot area of 0.79 hectares and a minimum lot frontage of 41 meters for the remnant lot. So the provisionally approved lot creation represents the maximum number of lots that can be supported by established planning policies, which restricts lot creation to a maximum of 3 lots plus a remnant lot. So it's my opinion that the proposed amendment meets the applicable provincial, regional, and township planning policies, and I have recommended that the application be approved, and the implementing bylaw has been added as bylaw number 35 this evening.
Okay, thank you. Motion that this report be received and that zoning bylaw amendment 03-2022W for lands described as concession 1 part lot 13 known municipally by its assessment roll number 2714000003185501 be approved for the reasons outlined in this report, and that the application be deemed consistent with the provincial policy statement 2020 and other matters of provincial interest, and that the zoning bylaw amendment attached as Appendix C be adopted. Mover seconder to put that on the floor, Councillor Gilmore, Councillor McClellan, and any discussion. Councillor Cridlin.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, just to Ms. Ivins, I just wanted to thank you for the extra work on that file regarding the limit of properties that we can put on that area. So just wanted to thank you for that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, it's 4 lots. You say 3 lots and a remnant lot. Can you just explain what definition of a remnant lot, and can it be built on? Oh, we lost your audio again. Sorry, perhaps.
One, two.
Oh, there we go. Go ahead.
So a remnant lot is basically just the leftover, the retained lands. Yes, it can be built upon. So essentially this will be for building lots within that property.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Van Vliet?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Sarah, I just have a quick question. What does agricultural transition mean?
So that is a zone that's typically reserved for areas adjacent to built up areas such as our hamlets and then the lakeshore area. So
now we've lost you again there, Sarah. Sorry. You're in and out, unfortunately. Lindsay, can you jump in for us, please? Sorry, Sarah. We'll have Lindsay help out here.
Yep, no problem. Through you, Mr. Mayor. It's an area for transition that will allow for future development for those lands that can't be used for agricultural purposes. For example, livestock facilities can't meet minimum distance separations from nearby residents because of the built-up nature of those surrounding lands. So typically they're rural designation with the transition zoning.
So agricultural, the word actually shouldn't be in there, right? Because you can't farm anything there or even have animals because it's rock. Just so everybody's clear, we're not, building on farmland.
Through the mayor, that's correct. We're not building on farmland. The policies permit lot creation in this area, in the Lakeshore Residential.
Thanks, Lindsay.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Sarah.
Okay. Anything else on that? Thank you, Sarah. Sorry you're having trouble there. So the motion's on the floor and no further discussion. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And now we move into our Public Works staff report. And we'll look to Mr. Nan to speak to that, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to members of council. This report in front of you is basically to provide an update on the capital projects that were approved by council in the 2022 budget. Since the budget was approved, staff have been busy trying to implement the various projects and get them started and get them off the road. So we provided some little bit of update for you. The municipal water distribution system, as council is aware, that we've had several main breaks in the past, including the latest one when we were digging the foundation and foundation repairs. We found another one, so staff is moving forward with that project in the design and hoping to tender it out shortly. The second project, again, was the waterproofing project. We've ran into quite a few issues with the project as we uncovered many things around our building. And unfortunately, this led us to remove the sidewalk for the safety of the workers because it didn't matter what we did, we couldn't dry out the soil around the building. The original building basement only had waterproofing on the one side of it. The remainder of the foundation and basement did not have any waterproofing at all. So that's probably what led to a lot of the infiltration coming into our building. So the project has been completed, the waterproofing has been done, drainage is working well, but staff, because of the various components that were in the ground, including the sewers and electrical and all kinds of things that we found, we've decided that we're not going to reinstate the concrete sidewalk. And we're going to let it settle naturally, and we'll start compacting it slightly as we go along. Because the last thing we want to do is reinstate the concrete sidewalk and have it settle in a year or two. The next project, as you can see, that one large pipe in the one photograph I provided for you, that's actually our main sewer line that goes out to our septic tank. It is literally right underneath the asphalt. It looks large because it's insulated. So it's literally right underneath the asphalt, and we were shocked that when we saw cut the asphalt, we actually didn't cut right through it. It was that close. So we provided some photographs of some of the things we ran into. We did have one major incident that we did bring an engineer in for, and I want to thank Ben in the building department and Lindsay for assistance with her staff. We did find a large concrete foundation block that was installed. We can only guess what it was for, but it was actually pushing against the foundation, and as the water infiltration got in, it actually started pushing the foundation wall in. Now it didn't push it in far enough that would cause any issues. We did remove it in time, so it didn't cause us to replace any foundation work, and the waterproofing will sustain it, and the engineers have signed off that we don't have to do any other remedial work. The banner program, we did manage to get an MTO permit. We're hoping to start that program in the fall. I'll be working with Lindsay and her staff to select the various banner for the winter program, and then we'll be starting a decorative program with the schools to try and come up with a summer type of banner that we'll display as well. Update on the SUV from what I have in the report. I did get a phone call yesterday, I believe, or the day before. I can't remember. But one of the SUVs has arrived, and we'll be receiving delivery of that first SUV shortly. The roadside mower replacement. Everything is put together, except we're waiting on some hydraulic components that are on back order, and obviously because of some of the industry, nobody's stocking parts, and we're at the mercy of whenever the stock and supply is rebuilt. But everything is ready to go. We anticipate getting that hopefully by the end of the month. The cemetery mower, we've managed to get that right away, and we've put it in service as soon as we received it. The whole pack was received in late June, and we've actually placed that into service already as well. Parking lot spreader was received, and it is in our yard, ready to be implemented and mounted in our vehicle for the beginning of the winter season. Road resurfacing program, as council is aware, we awarded that project at the last meeting, and we're hoping to get that started shortly. Gents Road Bridge, as of this evening, about 2 hours ago, we finally got the final permit from the NPCA, and we will be starting the relocation of the gas main tomorrow morning, and hopefully giving them the week to get the gas main relocated. We will be starting the Gents Road project the week after. The Pearson-Lincoln Bridge, as mentioned in the report, West Lincoln is currently finalizing the engineering and preparing the new tender for the rehabilitation of that structure. The Lakeshore Road Safety Project, which is the storm sewer and retaining walls, I can gladly say that they're progressing well. We ran into a little bit of a hiccup with a gas main again, but they've managed to work around it, and we've managed to get back on track. The storm sewer portion has been completed. The road excavation has been completed. And as of 5:15 today, when I was out there, they've got half of the one retaining wall already constructed. Lake Erie Storm Restoration Project, the engineer is complete, and we'll be filing for the permit shortly and then preparing the tender for that completion. Large culverts, the Gents Road culvert, which is on the Beezer Drain. The pipe is actually already there, ready to go, and that'll be installed in the next few weeks as well. The drain works, the Biederman Drain Works, Section 78. The Ellsworth Drain, Section 78, the CSW 78, they've all been, Mark's been working diligently to keep them rolling and going. And again, I commend Mark for all the work that the Drain Committee and himself have been going to forward all the projects this year. The Feeder Road Drain, as council is aware, was awarded for engineering. We're hoping, I believe, they were going to come out and take shots. Okay, there you go. Tomorrow. They'll be taking shots tomorrow for that one. The guide rail program was awarded and completed already. That's already in the works. Road reconstruction engineering, the engineering was awarded. We ran into a few hiccups out there that we will have to deal with, including encroachments. But we've already had our initial meeting on site with the engineering company. And because I went on vacation for a week, I delayed them coming out so I can have another further meeting and walkthrough with them for that program. The Recreation Complex project, we're in the final stages of the tender review right now, and we're hoping to have that out within by the end of the week. So that project will go for tender. And the municipal tree program, we're hoping for a fall tree planting program to provide an opportunity for the residents to pick up a tree to plant on their properties. And I'm available for any questions if council has any.
Okay, thank you, Richard. So just mover, seconder, respecting the capital project update be received for information, Councillor McClellan and Councillor Van Vliet. I would like to say what an impressive list of work we are getting done. And Richard, that's you and your team, but it comes right from the council down to all the staff. Everybody here is working together in a team environment, and it's absolutely impressive when you look at that list of what we are accomplishing in the last period of time that that report covers. And that is because we are working together, everybody's pulling their weight, doing their job, and look what you can get done in a small municipality like ours, how much we're accomplishing. It's absolutely impressive. So I want to say thanks to all the staff, everybody, the councillors, everybody. We're really, really getting a lot of work done. So it's just my comment. Thank you. Any questions of Councillor Van Vliet was first, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Richard. My only question is the municipal banners. The design of them, are they going out to tender? Because I know there's a few local graphic design people here in the township. So are they going to tender or are they already done?
Through your worship, we're still working with Lindsay on the initial designs. We're hoping for a more of a generic type of winter banner for the festivals or for the holiday type of season. And we're hoping to involve some of the schools and local artists as well to submit potential drawings so we can incorporate that. And we're hoping to actually bring that back to council for their actual input and maybe award to who's going to get the design of that.
Thanks.
Councillor McClellan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Richard, thank you. Glad to see all that work getting done. I'm going to ask you one question that I asked you 100 times already. What's happening with Regional Road 45? And what do we have to do to put some pressure on the region?
Through your worship to Councillor McClellan, I did reach out. I didn't get a response. And I did reach out again, and I'm waiting for a response from Carolyn this week. But my understanding was they were still working with a engineer the last time I spoke to them to look at trying to figure out how they're going to reopen it in a short-term basis rather than reconstructing the whole thing this year. They had slated it for a future project, so I can't say from the region standpoint. And I reiterate your frustration with the whole project and the road closure. I think it should have been taken a priority right from the get-go, especially when you decide to close a regional road for a length of time is what they have done.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Cridland?
Through you, Mayor, really just echoing the thanks for getting to this point and seeing it, a public-facing report like this it's really nice for the public to have this kind of an update as well. And I'm just going to throw in the amount of maintenance that we're also getting done is very, very key, and it's revealing, what happens when you don't do maintenance. So again, kudos for the staff to be ahead of these problems and continuing to bring them forward and get them done. So just thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, the motion is on the floor. All in favor of receiving this report? That is carried. Thank you very much. And we'll stay with Richard, and now we'll do his update on the Canada Summer Games bicycle time trials.
Through your worship, this is a memo to correct the last memo from the last meeting because things have changed. As the memo indicates, the original request was for us to assist with a bicycle race that was going to start in Port Colborne for the bicycle time trials for the Summer Games. And then it was only going to be utilized a couple of roads in Wainfleet. Through discussions with, that was attended by myself as well as the fire chief and members of the Niagara Regional Police, as well as the MTO. The MTO was pretty adamant in suggesting they find an alternative route rather than closing a Highway 3 for an entire day during a busy construction season and during the week. The committee has gone back to look at different alternative routes, and they have actually chosen to come to us and ask us if we would be able to and willing to host the entire race here. The route, as indicated in the report, will use Feeder Road, Burkett Road, Concession 1, and then back on Daly Ditch Road and back Feeder Road to our basically the starting point here, which is at the end of Side Road 20. They've looked at all the various routes and possibilities, and I know the city of Port Colborne and the mayor can probably mention it as well, but I know they're disappointed that they're not going to be hosting the race at all anymore and being able to take part of it. But this was the only basic route that we tried to look at that would minimize the impact to the residents in the most of the residents or the volume of residents. We're still in discussions with them. This was just brought to me last week, so we've put this together in short order. But again, there's a few things that we're working through. They have to come up with an emergency plan that is going to satisfy the regional police as well as the fire staff for the race. There's a basically an agreement that will have to be arranged and signed. And due to our council schedule, one of the recommendations is that you allow the CAO to enter into the agreement once it's been solidified and acceptable to our staff solicitor. Basically, I mentioned to them that, again, I would come back to council to seek their support in hosting the entire race within the Township of Wainfleet.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Before we go to the motion, are there any questions? Just in case we will need to make any amendments to that motion. Okay, seeing none. So, motion being memorandum from the Manager of Operations respecting the Canada Summer Games bicycle time trials update be received, and that Council approve the Township of Wainfleet hosting the Niagara 2022 Canada Summer Games time trial race utilizing the Township right-of-ways, and that Canada Games obtain a road occupancy permit from the Township, and that the Canada Games submit to the Township a traffic management and emergency plan developed with the assistance of our Fire and Operations Department, EMS, and the Niagara Regional Police, and that Council authorize the Chief Administrative Officer or his designate to enter into an agreement with Canada Games on terms and conditions satisfactory to the Township Solicitor. Mover, seconder for that, please. Councillor McClellan, Councillor Van Vliet. And discussion on that now. Oh, Councillor McClellan has some.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Richard, I know some of our shoulders aren't the greatest along some of the roads. Are we going to have to do some touch-up along that, or like with the bike, you'll go over pretty quick? And
yeah. Through your worship to Councillor McClellan, one of the discussions I had early on was, for instance, Daly Ditch Road is in need of repair, and it will be put on a future road construction project. It didn't meet the criteria this year because we've had so many to do. But we did basically notify them that we won't be constructing any roads. We won't be doing any major repairs on the roads to prepare for it, and to take the route again and take another look at the road itself to see if it's acceptable for them. Even in some of these areas that are in rough shape, they will be responsible for coning them off, and they do believe that they can run the course. They actually ran it the other day. And I did meet with them. They believe that the course they will work around the areas that are in need of some repair. We anticipate doing some minor work on them for, like, obviously our normal minimum maintenance standards for potholes, etc. But we don't plan on utilizing any of the town's resources above and beyond our normal minimum maintenance standards to prepare them for the race. Any additional negotiations will have to take place as far as the maintenance, but as far as the township and staff are concerned, We told them up front, be prepared to provide all the barricades and road closures and cones and anything required to make this race happen, because we just don't have the resources available to assist them at this time.
Councilor McClellan?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the one other question would be then, if we're not going to do any major repairs or get rid of those little ankle biters that are on the shoulders when you go off the asphalt, are they assuming all liability, or are we on the hook for that?
No, through your worship, to Councilor McClellan, they are taking full responsibility. They will be signing an agreement, as well as providing the township with insurance, et cetera, for those liabilities. Again, with the agreement, the way it's been drafted, our staff council has reviewed it, made numerous changes, and we will be sending that back to them shortly for their consideration. But because this has happened in such a short time frame, we weren't able to finalize the agreement in order to bring it to council. But we are working on that to minimize any liability to the township whatsoever. And I'd like to also point out one of the reasons why we're not providing as much resources, because it's the same day as our 13 for 13 event, which staff will be working diligently during the day and that evening for our large event anyway. So we're trying to coordinate the race and the event all at the same time. So we're going to be stretched a little thin, but we believe we can manage it.
And just to comment on the road repair, I was in a road race, 75-kilometer road race, rural Alberta a few years back, and all they did was put cones around the potholes, and they had a volunteer stand there and just make sure nobody drove into the potholes and stuff. They did nothing extra, so it's not going to cost us any money in looking at, upgrading our roads more than normal. So I know our CAO had a comment.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council, and hopefully Richard can chime in if I'm totally off base. But the other component of these time trials is that the riders won't necessarily be riding only on the shoulder. We are looking at full closures in certain areas, so they will be traveling down the sort of center of each lane as opposed to the edge. So again, I think our edges might require a bit of tidying up, but I think for the selected roads, for the most part, hopefully are in passable shape for trials on the main road surface.
Yeah, sorry, and if I may, Your Worship, one of the other things is to keep in mind is it's a single rider on the course. It's not a pack of riders going down through the course. They'll be let off at various times in intervals. The only time is when there's a possibility, and they'll be coning off the center line of the road, making sure that there's two ways, is from Daly Ditch to the end of Side Road 20, where the beginning and the end run. There'll be times there where you may have two on the same road, but they'll be in opposite lanes. And they'll be responsible to making sure that that's safe. But it's not like it's a pack of riders going through that, push each other around or anything. It's basically a single rider at the same time, at one time.
Okay, if there's any further questions, Councillor Cridlin.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, and I think Councillor McClellan pretty much covered all the risk part of it, and that will include any kind of weather, so if our roads look good today and they're not good on the day of the race, that's not our call. Okay, thank you.
Okay, the motion's on the floor, no further questions, and all in favor of receiving that and approving all the aspects of that motion, and that is carried. Thank you. Review of correspondence. And I think Councillor Cridlin has an item that you wish to discuss, please. Thank you.
Thank you, through Mayor. It's item number C2022-137 from our recent package that's on the website from the Library Board of Trustees, and they've written to us regarding a proposal for more library space and targeting, obviously, Station 2. So it's a really well-written proposal from them, and I think if we could move that just goes on the floor. I think that's all I'm supposed to do now. They're just asking that it perhaps be sent to staff.
Okay, thank you. So that you're asking that correspondence to be to to be referred to staff. It's very early in the decision-making process of the old fire hall, so that will just simply become part of the discussions later on. Is that?
Thank you. So it's got no timeline on it. That's correct. So it's not expected to be coming back anytime soon, but when it's due to come back, that it will be included in that report. So thank you for clarifying. No doubt, no timeline other than our normal when this gets looked at. Thank you.
Go ahead, Will.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council. I'd like to bring the attention of another item of correspondence, which was sent by email last night to all members of council. It will be included in the next council information report, which will be published later this week. But likewise, it's an email or a request from the Wainfleet Firefighters Association, also speaking to fire halls here in the township, specifically the Winger Hall, which will become surplus, I think, to our needs once the new station is in place. And I'm going to suggest that in a like manner as the library request that you've formally received in your last correspondence package, that the Firefighter Association request likewise be referred to staff for investigation and report back at a future date, because staff are looking at a sort of global, or trying to look at things from a global perspective. There's competing needs and desires, not only, for example, library, not only fire association, but there's another tenant, for example, in the existing fire hall here in Marshville Village, in Marshville, that includes EMS. So again, staff are taking a sort of holistic, global approach to it, and we will certainly include, with council's direction or support, all those sort of requests and suggestions and ideas. We'll investigate with each of the groups and then report back at a future meeting.
Okay, thank you. So can I have a mover and a seconder to have both those items referred to staff for future information and discussion? So it's Councillor McClellan and Councillor Van Vliet. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Those items are referred. We move into our bylaws. And that bylaw A to D, as listed on the agenda, be read and passed this 12th day of July 2022. Mover seconder for that, please. Councillor Gilmore and Councillor Cridlin, sorry. Any discussion on those bylaws? Seeing none. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And separately, that bylaw 37-2022, being a bylaw to provide for drainage works in the Township of Wainfleet in the region of Niagara, Chambers Corner drain extension, be read a first and second time and be provisionally adopted this 12th day of July 2022. Mover seconder for that, please. Councillor Gilmore, Councillor McClellan. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Are there any notices of motion? Okay, and we're now look to move into our closed session. Make a motion that council now move into closed session to discuss item under section 234 2CF of the Municipal Act 2001, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. One item, a tax sale matter. Mover seconder, please, for closed session. Councillor McClellan, Councillor Gilmore. No discussion. All in favor? Thank you. We'll move into closed session.